Aaron go bra.
No, in this show, it's Aaron go bra-less. That's how we do it.
Kiss the Blarney Stone.
Yeah, we are doing corned beef brisket today on GrateTV.
Fired up.
Fighting a little bit of wind today. It's GrateTV time, and it's the luck of the Irish time.
It's time to do the St. Patrick's Day corned beef and cabbage, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, in fact, we had recently got a question on Google Plus about, his name?
Chris Bonney.
Chris Bonney. Wife bought him a brisket.
Bought him a corned beef brisket at the supermarket. He put it in the oven and cooked it because where he is still too cold to grill. And noticed that the corned beef was a little bit too salty after he got it done, and want to know if we had any suggestions how to fix that particular problem. And you know, corned beef brisket is a cured product, and they cure corned beef in salt, in a salt kind of solution, and it really makes a difference. So what I do is put the corned beef into a bag. I put it into a resealable bag, Ziploc, and I add water to it, and then I let it soak overnight. But I change the water as often as I can think about it, recommended every 2 or 3 hours, and that takes that salt and kind of makes it leach out a little bit, so you don't get that real heavy-duty salt that's coming out of corned beef. It's a good idea. Matter of fact, it's a great idea, and it's a great tip for the day.
Let's break this down. As we do this, welcome to GrateTV. 3-time South Carolina State Champion Jack Waybore's here. Jack at GrateTV.com. I'm Bill at GrateTV.com. Show takes about a beer in length to enjoy.
No bottles today. We're cracking cans.
Mm-hmm. And, corned beef from the birthplace of American barbecue. So that's the quick once-over.
Delicious.
There's differences, though. When I think about brisket, we're typically on this show talking about smoking it low and slow, plain old brisket. When you look at brisket, corned beef brisket, in the store, you're talking about a different animal.
It is. It's the same piece. It's the same cut, the same piece of beef, but they usually chop it up into flats and points. Flats are generally a little bit more expensive because there's less fat on them, and it's a different product to cut or to cook. I like to use points. Points are a little more forgiving, a little more tender, and they make great corned beef and cabbage. The standard way to cook corned beef and cabbage is to braise it. Put it in a pot. Open up the little package of pickle and spice, put it in there, cover it with some water, stick it in the oven or put it on the stovetop, boil it 3 or 4 hours until it's done. What I like to do is to treat corned beef exactly like I treat brisket, but I treat it like a hot and fast brisket. So I'm going to cook this at about 300, 325 on the grill or in the smoker, and then I'm going to go ahead, when it gets to an internal temperature somewhere around that 165, 170 mark, and we talk about that when we cook low and slow briskets and getting it to a point where and then I'm gonna wrap it up in some foil, add a little bit of liquid, seal it up tight, put it back on the grill again, drop that temperature back just a little bit. So if I'm at 325, I'm gonna drop it back to maybe 300. If I'm cooking at 300, if my grill settles in around 300, I'm gonna back it back to maybe 280, 290, somewhere in there, just so I can let that fat render out and get that connective tissue to break down. So you're doing basically the same thing, except we're going to do a little bit faster. The whole process takes about 4 hours to cook on a grill.
So when you're talking about, and you can do this with the full whole brisket, right?
Sure.
But this makes it easier. Is there a different, I know when you're doing competition smoked brisket, there's different texture and taste to the point compared to the flat.
Right.
Is that going to even be noticed by the time you kind of cure it? And
it will be the same kind of texture. That point will have that kind of springy, fatty kind of feel, and the flat will be much leaner, and it'll slice pretty much the same. But you need to make sure that corned beef is best sliced against the grain, thin.
Okay. So what do we do to season it up?
So all we're going to do really is do the same thing we pretty much do to a regular brisket. We're going to take this little fat cap off of here because, quite frankly, this isn't going to do us any good at all. And you can see as we're cutting it and as we're taking that fat cap off, this got a little gray as we were soaking it in water, but you can still see it's very pink and red right in this little area right here. But all I really want to do is get that fat off because it's not going to help us at all. Really don't want to take a whole, we don't need to take it all off, but if it's not going to help us, then why do we need it on there? That's my idea. And then I'm going to take it, square it up a little bit, get that stuff out the way, and all I'm going to do is add a little bit of oil to it, and you can, this is the easy way, is to put a little spray oil on there.
Just enough to make some stuff stick.
Just enough to stick.
Okay.
You can use mustard. We've used mustard in the past. It's certainly not a problem, and it'll work just fine. And then all we're going to do is give this a good solid coating of some sort of seasoning blend. This is a garlic pepper blend that I really enjoy using. I'm not using any sugar on this because, well, quite frankly, I don't want to have a sweet brisket here. I want this to taste like corned beef, traditional corned beef and cabbage. You could use black pepper and the standard spices that go along with corned beef and cabbage, which is cardamom, marjoram, black pepper.
We'll put a little recipe for this rub on the website, GrateTV.com.
Yeah,
search out brisket, search out corned beef. But the one thing is, since there is already a ton of salt in there, since we bought the corned beef as corned beef in the store,
right?
Is there much salt in the mix?
There's some salt in the mix. You want a little bit of salt on here, a little bit of pepper on here, because you want this to, again, like we normally do. It is windy out here.
We got some wind. We apologize if there's sound issues.
What we normally do is try to develop a crust on the outside of this, and I want to try to develop that exact same crust that we develop in a regular brisket. So it's ready to go. It's got the rub on it. All we're going to do is kind of let this sit for a minute, maybe spray a little more oil on it to give it the advantage so it sticks real good. Set this aside. Give it 5 minutes or so to let those seasonings kind of blend together and what I call bloom, and then you go straight to the grill with it. Cook it fat side down. If you have a fat side, cook it fat side down, because you want to try to use the fat against whatever your heat source is to protect the meat. But we want to develop this piece up here just like we would in a brisket, so we had that nice bark on there.
So should we put it on now?
So yeah, this is ready to go.
Let's put this on here.
Cabbage, remember when we did the cannonball cabbage, Bill?
I do.
I think it'd be cool to put that link on here somewhere where we can see the cannonball cabbage. But it's the same exact process that we use for cannonball cabbage, except we're not going to drop it in the chimney this time. We're actually going to put it right on the grill or on the smoker.
About an hour before it's done.
About an hour, yeah.
Before the beef's done.
It takes cabbage about an hour to cook. I already trimmed off the outer leaves and put a nice hole in there so we can fill it up. If you remember last time, it was very simple. All we did was put butter, bacon grease, and a bouillon cube in. Chicken bouillon, remember?
Yes.
So I got some butter here, and I'll start with some butter, and we'll put that down in there like that. And all I did before the show was compounded the bouillon cube and the rendered bacon fat, and that's what this is. Easy to do. If you don't want to compound it, you go ahead and put the bacon fat in there and just stick the bouillon cube right down in the middle of everything. So we'll put that kind of in the middle. That looks delicious, doesn't it? Bacon fat.
In this case, the bacon fat will add something.
Bacon fat.
We noticed that last time.
Oh yeah, bacon fat is good. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a cap on it of the butter. Get it all in there as much as we can, because that's going to add flavor to it. And then, very simply, you make yourself a little boat out of some aluminum foil.
And this is the cannonball we basically dropped into the.
We dropped it in the. It was during the. It was during the. Ooh, it was during the summer of extreme barbecue. Remember? Mm-hmm. And then all I'm going to do is use the foil to protect the cabbage. Just like that.
The thing I like about this is that this is pretty forgiving.
It is pretty forgiving.
We put it in a charcoal chimney right on the coals.
It's very good. And then I think I'm going to use a little Tango spice.
Like Tango Spice Company, we appreciate them checking in with us.
And I'm
They
going
got a good channel too.
I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that right on the butter. Just like that. And that'll kind of all seep down in there and spice up our cabbage real nice.
Sounds good. Okay, so that'll wait. We got to do that after this cooks. So while that's cooking, let's take a look at, real quickly, a couple of great plates.
Great. Who do we got?
Starts with, look at these beef ribs. Steve Vermas from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He says, here's a pic of some beef ribs and pork country style ribs I made on a mini WSM that he just made. So he says, enjoy the look of it. I love
those. Look awesome.
Beef ribs, and those look killer, and looks like there's plenty for everybody.
Beef ribs are good in a braise, but they are awesome on a grill.
And then there's more. I love that people are doing some of the stuff that we did already. Brunswick stew, we had a ton of fun doing that. Look at that. There's a nice bowl and pot of Brunswick stew.
That looks fantastic. The Brunswick Stew show was a very tasty show.
Chris and Judy cook. Chris says, Judy took your recipe, made Brunswick stew using leftover pot roast and rotisserie chicken. I think you remember we said you could kind of use anything.
Anything you want to use, it's a leftover dish.
It was great, like a good soup, even better the second day.
Of course, everything's always better in that white line the second day.
So it's been cooking. We got the cabbage on there.
Cabbage is done. It's been about an hour. This has been about 4, but make sure you take a minute. And if you look at this right here, you can see the grain is running this way. So we're going to cut it this way.
Okay.
So we'll give it a start. We don't want to cut it very thick because, well, corned beef should be thin anyway, especially if you're going to stack it high. So we'll cut some corned beef. It looks fabulous. It's tender. The knife is gliding right on through. I'm going to grab me a piece of this corned beef right here. Look at that. Cuts like butter.
Piece of the corned beef. And you're ready to set yourself up for a night on the town before St. Patrick's Day.
Let's give it a taste. I can't wait.
Let's try it.
Let's try it. You can taste the smoke in the cabbage. The corned beef is tender. Notice we took a lot of that salt out, though. Let's answer the question
Not
one more time.
too salty.
Not too salty. Because we soaked it right out of there.
And it stays together, yet still cuts with fork. I love it. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy it with friends. And come back and watch more GrateTV next Thursday.
Corned beef and cabbage. Thanks for watching. Buy local, think global, stay sustainable, and every chance you get, hug your mama.